We are kicking off a brand new monthly show called Elevate Your Edge. And today it is Get Hired: Essential Strategies for Succeeding in STEM Job Interviews. And we are joined by an amazing group of STEM leaders and hiring managers. They are going to really give us some incredible insight on how to stand out as a candidate, their wisdom that they have learned over the years, both building their own careers and hiring many others. To kick off our discussion, Priya, I'd love for you to share perhaps a story and an example of a challenging hiring decision that you may have had to make and what kind of factors you considered when making that decision.
I think most challenging hires that I have had to do was to choose between a candidate who was a lot more technically savvy but a lot less communicative. I feel like that's a bigger challenge in general for engineering, where engineers are amazingly tech savvy, but not everyone can have those soft skills. And my challenge was how to balance it, whether I'll be able to balance it or not, and also how to not lose on the opportunity that my company or my team personally would have had if I would have hired this individual. I think the best solution that I came up with in that ideology is teaching soft skills is hard, but I feel like at some point, if you have a person who is flexible, who is technically savvy and expert in their careers, as long as they can communicate and teach everyone under them, for like junior engineers and scrum masters, as long as they can communicate their work and their issues and their blockers, I have a bigger and a better team which I feel can help them develop those soft skills. So that's where I made that trade-off of soft skills are much difficult to develop, but this individual showed that they wanted to do it. It came off to me as they hadn't had that opportunity before. So that's one of the biggest decisions that I've made, honestly. And it actually paid off really well because today they are another engineering manager in my company. So I'm happy.
If you are this amazing architect that can build integrations in your sleep, is actually if you can share something about your weekend or about your personal life and be a human. And I think there's another layer of how to make those things work is not necessarily looking at the candidate. We can do is with our existing team, map them out in a certain way that we know more about them. So when we're doing a like insight study thing and we have this beautiful conversation around the color scheme of who we are, and we're saying, in red, you need to be 3 bullet points with me. If you write me 16 paragraphs, I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read it. You need to send it to someone that will send me the 3 bullet points that I can read it. So if I communicate to the candidate, you're joining a team that the product owner is a blue, detail-oriented dude. The product manager is a red, to the point. A couple of developers that are green. And this is how the ecosystem operates. All of a sudden, they start to understand better, and you can put them in a position that they can be successful. Learning the team and then doing the vibe check and connecting that candidate into that can really increase our chances. And I think the second piece of that is the secondary weapon. We hire people to do a job, but then we need to create an underline of something that is connected to the true north, where they want to go with their career. Are they going from a BA to a dev to an architect to a whatever? Are they looking into going into leadership? Once I identify the true north and I start doing stretch missions, you're going to go now and run the DI program. You're going to go now and do that, and then connect them with personality that either connect to them or contradict to them, and you build that capacity of a stronger team because they need to fit to something. No one is working in the background, and that's the biggest piece of the recruiting.
Danny, practical advice do you have for everyone here and listening today? How can we stand out of the crowd? What can you do as a candidate to really just rise above the noise, stay focused, and move your career forward?
I think there's a couple of things. Firstly, you've just got to do it. You've got to treat finding a job, and you've got to dedicate your time. You've got to also have those moments where you can relax, take it easy, enjoy yourself a little bit. But what I try to say to people is first think about your brand. What do you want people to see when they look at your LinkedIn and look at your resume? Does it literally say exactly what you're looking for? Because as recruiters, we are going through hundreds and hundreds of profiles, and so 8 seconds is supposedly how long a recruiter will review a profile. So if you aren't instantly telling me who you are, what you do, we're probably going to move on. The second part is when you get the opportunity, get your foot in the door, is being able to tell your story, being able to tell people who you truly are, your values you can add. And then three, this is where I think in the STEM community, this would be my biggest advice for everyone, is your network is your net worth. You have to do the numbers. There's a saying that I tell everyone to do is, when in doubt, send your resume out. Unless you take the shot, you're not going to create the chance. And in recruitment, we talk a lot about it is a contact sport. The more chances you create, the more opportunities, the more contacts you make, the more chances you create. So step one, make sure your brand is very clear on your LinkedIn, on your resume, on your profile. Then it's about having that story. But the key is the networking, is getting out there. So the final part is really setting a very clear plan and having milestones and celebrations during that, because you're not going to get a job overnight. So work backwards. In 6-7 weeks, I'm going to have a job. What do I need to do? Well, I need to reach out to X amount of people, and I need to do this daily. I then eventually will start getting interviews. I will then start getting offers. But if you have that plan, it really means that you can work towards it and you can get excited and celebrate the little things. And little wins at the beginning are, someone actually responded to me. And I remember whenever I'm coaching someone through this journey, they're like, no one's responded to me. I've done it for 2 days. Give it time. Then a couple of weeks later, I'm hearing from loads of people. I'm like, exactly. Now is where you're going to start getting excitement, but there will be rejection. So every time you hear rejection, find out what it is that you could have done better. And a lot of clients, and I understand recruiters, sometimes we're not giving you the feedback, push us to get us the feedback. We need to give you it so you can fine tune, you can get better. Use that as constructive advice rather than criticism. Go out there. If you're secret right now, let everyone know who you are. Lean on your friends, lean on every single person you know, even the people you haven't spoken to for some time. They go,
Quantify your success. If you implement 3 different integration over 6 months, you punch in the numbers in your hero story, the recruiter will see it at the 8 seconds. It's good. It's something that we can digest better than just language. Numbers hits very well. I did 95% closing tickets within 72 hours. That's great. And good, cool. So that's one piece of the quantifiable hero story. Then the second piece, leveraging your network. What you need to do is to reach out to people that know people and leverage them as multipliers.
I saw in the chat early on, folks are asking things like, how can I stand out in the crowd? And what if there's 200 applicants? And number one, I learned as a hiring manager on the other side of LinkedIn, don't watch the LinkedIn counter. That counter clicks forward every time someone even attempts to apply. Is not a measure of how many qualified people have actually applied for that job. So just ignore that number, by the way. And the other is there is no crowd. It is only you. It is you talking to that recruiter, you talking to that interviewer. What helps you get better is working on you and on your interview experiences.
What would you say differentiates those people who are able to really move in their career, elevate, have big impact from those that tend to struggle?
I think the first and the foremost is how communicative and collaborative you are, how open you are to everyone else's point of view in your team or outside your team. Because I have had people who have a very opinionated background, which I really absolutely love. But at some point, there has to be a space where we are like, everyone's opinionated, let's figure it out, that works for everyone, and move on. Let's learn from each other. The second thing, this can be controversial, so stick with me. There's a lot of engineers who are like 20 years, 30 years experienced who feel like they know everything there is to know about something. I disagree with it every single time. Technology is ever evolving. There cannot be one person knowing everything. And as long as you keep that mindset of, I'm going to learn something new today from anyone, it can be an intern, it can be your boss, it can be your peer, no matter who, as long as you have that mindset that I'm going to grow, I don't care from whom, I'm going to learn something and I'm going to teach something today. I feel like that fosters a lot of culture fits or cultural matches that everyone in the industry values a lot more.
So, how would you recommend somebody who is in this process? They're looking for their next opportunity and they are trying to find a leader like you, somebody who values collaboration, being a learner, being someone who can communicate well. What could they do prior to an interview? What could they do that would make you feel like a person may have the qualities that I'm looking for?
Your resume is the great place to start. If your resume has the same format as I've seen 20 different times, which is just plain black and white, small letters, extremely descriptional, I tend to not take that much interest into it. But if your resume is neat and clean and maybe has a little bit of color in it, you're not afraid to stand out, that speaks volumes. Also, I like someone who tells me what they did but not how they did it in their resume, so like a little bit of mystery. That also makes me feel like, oh, I want to talk to you, I want to know more. Now I want to know, what were your difficulties, what were your challenges, why did you choose to do this versus that.
When in doubt, send your resume out. But one thing I would do is, if you are connecting with people, don't send a long spiel. We are busy and we won't probably read the whole thing. I was asking this young guy yesterday and he was like, Danny, I've had no responses. I go, can you send me through a few of the messages you've sent? I said, not one of them asks a question. You're literally just saying to people, I'm looking for a job. All right, see you later. I'm like, how's that? Lost them for help. Do you know anyone hiring? Can you give me some advice? Can you give me some mentoring? And don't ask them for half an hour. Ask them for 5-10 minutes. When you ask someone for help, they feel quite powerful. And most of the time, they will want to help. You might not get hold of that person the first time. You may not even get hold of them the second time. Try them for a third time if you have to.
I have the advantage in this context of being in the Salesforce ecosystem, which is a very robust community. So in the Salesforce ecosystem, find a friend, find a mentor. We all do it. Someone comes and says, hey, I'm looking for this kind of work. Do you have any input for me? That's usually the beginning of me reaching out to someone to see if I might be able to help them find their job, even if it's not at my company, because I know the Salesforce space so well. So yes, when in doubt, send your resume out. All those things are real, but you don't have to be alone.
One of the things that made me want to go above and beyond for one of the people who reached out on LinkedIn was that they had linked a job description from our website and they actually told me, hey, I'm a good fit because this and that. Do you think that there are more skills that will elevate my resume? Do you think I can learn something more that I can add on that will add value? And I feel like that is the best, very specific questions that you can reach out to with people. And
the best recommendation I could give to give yourself a break, give yourselves a peace, know that if you are stressing yourselves out so much, never going to be at your full capacity when the opportunity does come along. So keep your mental health, realize that it's okay to give yourself some credit for the work that you've done, because don't take, and job searching is a job. Just give yourself some grace.
Smile. Be comfortable with who you are. Don't paint a picture that is not connected to reality. Everybody loves titles and that. It's not the right approach. Don't oversell the story. Be clear about what you want to do. Have a buddy that is working with you and a mentor that is working with you. There's different purposes, but you need both of them to the journey. And when you come to those conversations, be vulnerable. Be vulnerable. Explain what you want to do, where you want to go, where you're coming for, what was your strong suit before.
There's 3 zones. You're in your comfort or fear zone, or you go into development zone. Constantly look to develop yourself. You either win or you learn.